Good morning, Internet. My name is Alexander, and you're welcome to TLC design training. Here we're doing introduction to Photoshop. This is the second video. Today we'll be looking at brushes, and that will introduce us to the brush tool. And in doing so, we'll also look at how to create our own custom brushes. So let's dive into it without wasting much time. We create a new Photoshop project by coming to File and we select New, or you simply use the shortcut Ctrl plus the N key on your keyboard. Let's choose Print and let's look at other presets. Let's select A4 and let's put that to landscape, the orientation to landscape. I like to work in inches because it allows me to move within shorter steps. Working in millimeters, I've found I'm forced or restricted to move within certain fixed step, much more like snapping, which that bugs me. I don't like that. So we're going to leave other settings the same resolution at 300. RGB color mode, because we're assuming we're doing this for a screen. Let's just call this brushes how to. Okay, I'm sure that's the most appropriate name we could have gone with. Alright, quickly before I go further, you notice that my Photoshop interface is looking very white compared to the last video. So let me just show you how I'm able to achieve that. You come to File, into Preferences and Interface. So I've chosen this one. It's the brightest there, and that's why we have the white interface. Naturally, you're still supposed to get this off canvas as dark gray, but by coming to select color, I've selected that lighter gray of E4, 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 and that's how I'm able to get everything to be gray for me. Alright, moving on. So we're talking about brushes. This is the brush tool here. Let me just over that again. I want you to come see it says brush tool, and it's giving us an example of how to use it right there. This is a feature that has now been added to Adobe Creative Cloud since 2018, 2019, thereabout. So this is the brush tool here. By clicking on this brush tool and holding it down there, gives us this fly out, which shows every other tool you have within the brush tool set. We also, under the brush tool set, we have the brush tool, the pencil tool, the color replacement tool, and mixer brush tool. But what we're concerned about today is the brush tool. So to use it, you simply select that, and notice how we have that cross hair thing going on. Now here's how you increase your brush size. Two ways. We can come here. Remember, this right here is the status panel. So in the status panel, we can come here to brush here where we have the 13 on the brush symbol. Simply come here, and here where we have size, increase that thereabout, and you see we have that. And here are your brush sets. Before CC 2019, I think you would just have all the brush sets, all the brushes shown to you here, the icons. But right now, brushes are now grouped, and if you install your own brush, it will also be grouped into a separate folder like this. So we have these general brushes where we have the soft brush, the art brush. These are popular with photographers. So, and as artists, you're going to need the soft brush and art brush sometimes, especially the soft round brush, where we often use this brush to create the illusion of a shadow sometimes, among other things you can use that for. We have this dry media brush, which I don't concern myself with very much. Wet media brush, and we have this special effect brush. And then you can also bring in your own brushes by going to setting and coming to import brushes. Now a brush will come as a .abr file. So should you download a brush from the internet, all you have to do is look for the .abr file in it, and then just open that. Select that. You can see it says there .abr. So select your .abr file and load it up, and that's how you load your brushes. And if you want to export your certain selected brushes, all you have to do is select the brushes you want to export, which I'm going to show at the end of this video, because at the end of this video we're going to create our own brush and we're going to export them. So that's how you come here to this wheel and you go to export selected brushes, and that's how you create your own brushes, which will be saved somewhere on your drive as a .abr file. Now this .abr file, you can do whatever you want with it. You can give it to another person, a fellow artist, to use. You can sell the brush online and make some money off your effort. So whatever you really want to do, what is your oyster. Okay, moving on. So at the basic level, you simply want to make sure that you have a foreground color selected, a foreground color of your choice. Select that, and I like blue. I don't know why I find myself coming to blue a lot of the time. So basically, here we have the foreground color where my arrow is right now, and down there we have the background color. Let me just change that to something so we really get what I'm saying. So the blue is the foreground color, while the very dark gray, almost black, is the background color. So that's what we call it. For some reason Photoshop calls that foreground color and they call those foreground colors and background color. Alright, moving on. So at the basic level, I don't like applying brush to the background. So the first thing I do as a rule of thumb, or as a design, let's just call it as a rule of thumb, is that I create a layer for my brush and I give that layer whatever name I want. I could just say brush layer, and then I select, this is the soft round brush. I was going to say something then. The last time we increased the size of the brush, we came here and then we increased the size here, right? Now we're getting a bigger size. Now another way to increase the size using just your keyboard is to hold Control, and actually there's no control involved. Just tap your bracket closed key, Usually you find bracket close key on a standard keyboard after your letter P. So your bracket close key is going to increase your brush size, while the bracket open key is going to decrease your brush size. You can also call that the curly brace open and curly brace close. I think you use both keys for those two kinds of enclosures. Alright, so to simply apply your brush, just left click on your mouse, depending on what you're using. If you're using the optical trackpad of a laptop, then you want to hold down the whatever works as the left click, and then you use the rest of the trackpad to move around, and that will paint the brush onto your canvas and upon the layer you selected. But if you're using a mouse that is that has a wheel and is an external mouse, then you want to just left click and drag around to paint your brush. So right now I'm just going to do this, and that is how you simply paint your brush onto your canvas. And it's as simple as that. I've applied a brush onto this canvas. Moving on, now let's create another layer. So what I use right now is called a soft round brush. The soft round brush. Now let's just try a couple more. Let's create a new layer. Let's hide the previous layer, and let's call this the add brush. Okay, get into the habit of naming your layers. And what more you can do, you can even colorize your layers just to group them. That would be nice. Okay, so let's select the soft wrap. Let's select the add round, and just let's look at the difference there. Again, notice how this has the soft edge going around, and hence the name soft round brush. Now let's contrast that with this new one. Notice how that is completely solid, strong edges, and that we call the hard round brush. You can keep going down the list and keep testing all of these varieties of the basic or general brushes at your own convenience. So that's how you use brush basically. One of the things you're going to use brush for is in creating or mimicking a shadow. Let me just give an example of that using our shape tools, which we were introduced to in the last video, or in the first video of this series. So I'm just going to use our rectangle tool to create a box right here. I'm going to hold, I don't need to hold shift for this one. Okay, so there's a box. We need 3 of these, so I'm going to do layer, and I'm looking for duplicate layer. That's fine. Now the shortcut for that is to hold Control and plus the J key on your keyboard, and now we have 3 of these. Awesome. I need them for different things, so I'm just gonna do this. Okay, so the first thing I need, I'm gonna do a free transform on this first rectangle. By the way, if you're opening your Photoshop for the first time, or you're a beginner Photoshop user, or you're following this tutorial and you notice I'm able to click on my canvas and just move things around, and probably you're unable to do that and you're wondering why, here's what you do. Make sure that while on a layer, you come to the status bar and you have this auto select. You have it checked. If I uncheck it now, I'm gonna have a problem. Yeah, I can still move it, but notice how I'm only able to move that layer because that's the only one I've selected here. Now for me to move this other layer, I'm gonna have to select this, and I can't move this irrespective of where I'm clicking. I'm gonna have to select this to move this, and that's just gonna get laborious very quickly. So you want to have this auto select checked, and then that's how you're able to move anything just by selecting them from the layer, from the canvas directly. So I say I'm going to do a transform on this because quickly I want to do a box. So I'm going to go fast here, come to edit, come to free transform, that does that. Then let's right click and skew, and then we just want to hold shift and select this and bring that down there about. So we're just going to use this to create a box right there. I think I want more. Now I didn't right click, but I'm holding Control. That's how I'm able to do that without right clicking and selecting skew first. Just gonna put that back to where it's supposed to be. Okay, I think we don't need this particular layer, so let's press backspace. Let's duplicate this first layer and just do something tricky with it. Control T on your keyboard is going to give you the free transform selection tools, and right click and then say flip horizontal, and that's going to give us that. So that's what we're trying to get. And the last thing we need here is let me see how we can make use of what we already have. Okay, there's no way for that. So let's just create that there. First of all, okay, fine. So let's Control T on this one, and we're gonna do a lot of the crazy free transform right here. Okay, so I'm gonna drag this. I'm gonna hold Control. Okay, let's just drag it back bit, one bit at a time. Right there. Okay, so it's too far. Okay, right there. Okay, I think we got that lined up. Let's just bring this in a little bit, and I think that's gonna help us line this up. Not yet. Okay, fine. Let's bring this in. Okay, that should help us line things up there. Let's zoom in to just look at what we're doing. I'm gonna put this back a little bit, and yeah, this is lined up now, and I think this can line up vertically, line up with this one. I think that's the way I can do that. Let's bring in a guide. There we go. Okay, that's gonna help us line things up even better. Good. Okay, so now that's how you're able to quickly do draw something. To remove or to simply hide this guide, let's go to view. Let's go to view. Yeah, there we go. And guides. No, we don't want to clear guides. So I'm just going to teach us the shortcode. Okay, show. Okay. You know what? Just hold Control plus the semicolon key, and that will hide the guide away. Alright, lastly, let's quickly separate this. Let's give this some sort of perspective. Let's say the light is coming from this direction, thereabout this direction. So let's change this one to something a bit darker, right? Awesome. And this one, maybe just a tad dark, just to give our box some sort of dimensionality. So now, yeah, the light is coming this way, and that's good. So now, here's where we're going to. Yeah, our box is not perfect. That edge right there is not lined up, but that's fine. So, here's what we want to do. This layer, this one, we're going to duplicate that layer. Ctrl J. I'm going to bring up and then let's send it right to the bottom. So we're going to drag that layer and put it at the bottom right there. The next thing we're going to do with that layer is make it dark gray, thereabout. Make it gray. That's fine. Let's just make it gray. Now on that layer, let's go to filter and blur and Gaussian blur. Yeah, let's just do that. Convert to smart filter, smart object. It's really blurred very well. Let's blur it out a lot. Okay, I want us to get that to have that square form retained, so I don't want to lose that square form. Let's just put it at that. And the next thing I want to do to that layer is to reduce the opacity of that layer. So we're really doing the shadow thing going on. And now the shadow is directly under it, but we can do a lot more with that shadow. If we make it bigger, then that would just give the idea of that would give us a different idea of what the light is like, but let's just leave it that way. I think I like it, the idea of the floating box. I think that's good. So I'm gonna group. Okay, let me just undo so we see what I'm doing here, and I don't lose anybody. So these first three layers, they are the one that create our box, and they're important to us, so let's keep them together. I'm going to select this layer, hold shift on my keyboard, and select this one, and that's how I select all of the layers that I need. Or I simply come here, I hold Control on my keyboard or Shift, and I select each layer as I need them, and that does the same thing. To group it, I can go to Layer, Group Layers, or simply do Ctrl G on my keyboard. I'm going to double click on that name and color it Box. Okay, now I'm going to also select this other one, Ctrl T, everything together. Oh yeah, you can do that. Okay, get it. Temporarily this my fit will be gone. So I want it to be at the middle right there, and that's it. Now let's lock everything just so that things remain where we want them to be. So now that okay, sorry. All right, so let's hide that. That's one way we can create that shadow. But another way we create the shadow, which is where brushes come in now, is to make sure that we have a layer underneath our object. Let's call that brush shadow, right? And now we can press B on our keyboard, select the soft round brush because we've used it before. But the problem with this is it's not going to give us that box, but that's fine. Here's something we'd like to do with that. Let's just, now we don't want to use this blue foreground color as our brush. We want to use this one down. So to flip things around, so you don't need to select colors all over, just press X on your keyboard and then your foreground becomes your background and vice versa. So let's just now we're on this layer, remember, let's just draw something there. That's nice. So the next step of this is to Ctrl T, that is make it a free transform, and then we're just going to, no, we don't want it dragging proportionally. Let's hold Shift on our keyboard and then drag it, and that's what we want to create. We want to create that tiny layer of shadow. If we had created a circle, then this shadow would have mattered even more, because right now we've given the shadow we've given our box a different dimensionality with this kind of shadow, but that's fine. We just want to show how we can make the shadow work for us. Now let's lower the opacity, which is the next step. Now I could lower the opacity by coming in and then selecting something, but here's a quick trick. Select the layer that you want to lower the opacity. If you want the opacity to be at 10%, press 1. If you want it to be at 20%, press 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and that's how you go back to 0. That gives you 100%. So right now I'm just going to be at 4. No, let's do 3. So that's another use of our brush, or a very, very common use of our brush, is to create shadows under our objects. So that's that. Now let's move quickly to how you can create your own brushes. So for that, let's just hide all of these layers. Let's do that. Okay, fine. We need a picture, a reference picture. I have a picture here which I have in my downloads folder, so I'm just gonna put that there. That's fine. Let's just reduce this. Come here, you want this selected because that's what changes the proportionality together, or the proportions. So let's just reduce one of it. We either reduce the height, which is H, or reduce the width. It doesn't matter which one really. So press enter, and this is a transparent, this is a PNG file, so that's fine. That makes the work a lot easier for us. All right. Usually we would come to this part, adjustment layer. We would do that, come to threshold, and do all of this, which maybe let's just do that. Okay, so we've done that. Adjustment layer, threshold, fine. The next thing we want to do is the many ways we could approach this, but let's just approach it this way, because if I had brought in something with a lot of colors, a lot of values in it, color values, then this is a process you want to go through. This one I want to go through now. So I'm just going to use that process because that's one you would have used if I hadn't brought in a very simple image like this. So next thing is you want to go to select, and you want to go to color range, and this is how you can just select the range of colors you want if you were having a picture with lots of different colors and values. So let's say okay to that. I think I'm okay with that. This should be okay. Hold on, before we do color range, let's just do Ctrl Shift Alt E. What that does is it creates a merged layer of your entire work and put that as another layer on top of all of the rest of your work. I'm going to speak about this more in another video, so I'm just going to need you to follow me right now without too much of explanation involved. Okay, so that's what we need to get. We need to get this having a selection around. Let me just zoom this in so we see what's going on really. So there's a selection around our object right now, and this is why they made this thing to come in dark version. Okay, so while we have this selection, what we want to do is come to edit, define brush preset, and we're just going to call this world map. I'm going to create another world map layer, so let's call it world map 1. Awesome. Already your brush is ready to be used. Look at that. So if we add all of what we have now and create a new layer, let's just remove this selection by coming to select, deselect, or simply press Ctrl D or Command D if you're on the Mac. Now let's create this new layer and say testing custom brush. So right now we're testing the custom brush, and right now I want us to flip this back. Let's just flip this back. So press X on your keyboard, and that's fine. And on this layer, just in case you think there's some magic to that, let me just show you. So right now, notice how all we had before was this general brush, dry brush, web media brush, special effect brush, and there was nothing here. But right now we have this world map. So that's it. We've created our own brush and we can now use it. So right there we've got our world map in blue. If I create another layer and I decide to give that layer a different color, I like lemon a lot, and let's just add that one, the previous one, and now we have the lemon world map. So now we have our world map as a brush, and we can use it as many times as we want, and we can give it colors without the stress of having to edit the picture and do hue and saturation in that map and all that. So lastly, I said I was going to show us how we can export this. So right now with this selected and just that, we're going to go to this part and go to export selected brush, and I'm just going to export that to my document. I don't have a lot going on there, so I'm just going to call this world map. Let's call that 1, and notice how this is ABR. Okay, so that's fine. So let's go back to move to. Now I'm just going to show you a bit of my private things right now, so that's fine. Document, and notice how we have that world map 1, and that's it. Let's go to properties, and notice how it's an ABR file and it can be opened in Photoshop. And to install it, now let's just do something really cool just to show you how to install the brush. Let's go to B again on our keyboard, and let's right click this and delete this brush. So right now we no longer have this brush, but now we want it back. So B again, this brush doesn't exist, forget what's going on there. Now to install the brush, we come here and we come to import brush, document, and just select that, and that will install it for you. And remember I said if you install a brush, you're gonna get that folder. So most times brush makers, they put a lot of brushes, many different brush into one giant brush file, and we install them and we get many instead of this one. So that's how you do that. That's how you install your brushes, and that's how you make your own brushes. And these are some of the applications of what you can use your brush to do. And right now I'm just going to put a text tool here and say world map. World map. That's strange. I'm just going to select all, come here, select that color, and do that. Awesome. So there we go. Add map. Wrong. I don't like that font, so let's see if I can do better. You know what, let's just do that, and let's make that big, a little big, not that big. There we go. You know what, let's leave it the previous, and let's just really bump this up like crazy, right? Okay, so I'm doing some things now that I'm not explaining, but that's the things I'm doing are not the focus of today's class. And you can just look at what I'm doing and then try it, and that's fine. But so I don't leave anyone in the dark, what I did there, I used the text tool, which is here from T, and I made the canning really big. This VA is for canning, so I made the canning of the text really big, and that's what I did. And that's the end of this class. Do follow us on our YouTube channels and other channels that we're going to post at the bottom of the page there, and like this video if it is up to you, or if you find it interesting, or if you learn anything at all, anything. And constructive criticism are welcomed. Don't say anything destructive. I'm just gonna ignore you. Alright, thank you very much for watching, and see you next time. Bye.